So we did a webinar not too long ago, or a few weeks ago, I think, on on dashboards and BioTabs, and I thought it was important to follow up with what is a BioTab versus a dashboard. The last webinar that we did was really I used dashboards as my example a lot, and what you're seeing on the screen now is a dashboard. And a lot of the things that go into dashboards also tie into BioTabs, but I do think that there's enough of a difference there that it was kind of useful to point out the difference between a BioTab and a dashboard, some of the settings and all of that kind of stuff. So here we are with this webinar. So again, you're looking at a dashboard. Dashboards show global information for your entire system. So in this case, we're looking at a leadership dashboard. It shows a whole bunch of information about your leadership donors. Over on the right-hand side, we can see, a bunch of different birth dates for a bunch of different people, or anniversary dates for a bunch of different people throughout your system. BioTabs are going to be slightly different in that they gather a bunch of information on one particular account. So that could be an individual account or an organization account or an agency account, but it's going to gather a bunch of information on that one particular account and put it all in front of you on one screen. So we'll take a look at that. I'll use an individual as my main example, but the same can be true for an organization as well. So rather than clicking into 5 or 10 different tabs or subtabs, you can get all of that information on one screen about one particular account. So again, dashboards, global information across all accounts in your database, whereas a BioTab is information about one particular account. So let's start by, I'm just going to open up an account here. So I just clicked on Cindy Turner's profile image on that dashboard, and this is what I think a lot of people have historically seen with Andar. You open up an individual account and you get this gray screen, and this gray screen has very little useful information. Sure, it tells you their name and prefix and any of that kind of stuff. That's useful. But in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot more data in Andar that could be shown. And if this is your landing spot, I don't want to say you're doing it wrong, but you could be doing it better. That's where BioTabs come in. So just as a quick comparison, if this is what you've got, this is what I'm going to recommend instead. So same exact account profile, it's still Cindy Turner's profile. We still see Cindy's name on here, but now we're seeing a lot more relevant, useful information. This is a BioTab. So again, like a dashboard, it's gathering a whole bunch of different information across Cindy's account, and it's putting it all in front of you, so you don't have to click 5 or 10 times to see all of that. One of the other really big pieces that was in, I think it was the last service pack, in the 2502 service pack, is this profile image. So we've had profile images for quite some time, but it wasn't in there by default. And we went back to our developers and said, how can we make these profile images a little bit more usable, put them on the account without you having to necessarily do anything? So now when you open up a BioTab, you've got the option to see a little profile circle. I'll show you where that is in a second, the setting for that in a second. But again, gathering a whole bunch of information, making it relevant for what you want to see. We'll talk about the different roles and how you can view or create different BioTabs for different roles in your organization. So BioTabs are pretty handy little things. Okay, so how do we get these? If you don't have any BioTabs, notice over on the left-hand side, that's where I clicked on this profile individual. That is where my BioTab is. So if you don't have anything over on the left-hand side, I'll show you a couple of ways that you can get to add existing BioTabs. It's going to be a kind of a jump start. Instead of, I used this example in the dashboard webinar that we did. Instead of starting with a blank canvas, we want to give you some paint by numbers. So if you want to grab a paint by number BioTab and install it, then you can go and customize it, add and remove apps however you want. So let me show you how to do that. There's a couple ways. Very similar to dashboards. If you have the little what's new article that pops up when you first open Andar, you can get to the screen by clicking on, there's a little install BioTabs and dashboards there. If you don't have that, like you see my screen, I don't have the what's new popping up on me. You can always go to the help menu. And of course, I'm logged into the wrong version. Sorry, let me open my other version. When you're, I'll explain this while this is opening. When you're logged in as the Andar schema user, so like the admin user, not everybody has access to that. When you're logged in as that user, you don't have the what's new in 2025-02 or whatever message in your help menu. Only when you're logged in as kind of a non-admin user. So we'll jump into my non-admin user just to show you that portion. So if you go up to your help menu, there's this what's new for 2025-02. And when we get to 2026-01, it'll update it to be 2026-01. So it's always going to show you the new features that are in whatever service pack you're on. So I'm in service pack 2502. And if I click that, that's going to give me the little what's new articles. And then there's always going to be this persistent link down here that says install BioTabs and dashboards from Andar. So if I were to click that link, it opens up the dashboard installer, BioTab and dashboard installer. And you can see if you were part of that webinar from dashboards a few weeks ago, these are kind of what I pointed out earlier. You can click on one of these dashboards. It gives you a little description of what the dashboard is, a little image. Same thing with BioTabs. So we released a bunch of BioTabs here for the 2502 service pack. Notice in the release column over here, we've got 2025-02. All of these guys were released in 2025-02. So if you click on one of these BioTabs and click the install button, that will install this particular BioTab for everybody. These are all set up as global BioTabs. Talk about that here in a second too. But if you want to preview one of these guys and see what it looks like, you can, and then just click the install button. So that's one way. For me, I always like going through that just to point out that, we've got a what's new article now, and you can always get back to the what's new. But if you don't want to go through that, if you don't want to go up to the help menu and get the what's new article and then click the install BioTabs and dashboards, let me show you the other way that we can do this. The other way is opening up an individual account. I'm sorry, let's go to straight to the main menu item. So let's close Cindy's account for a second. And if we expand our main menu back, and let's look for dashboard. I always search. I can never remember where this menu item is. We've got a lot of menu items. So if you use that second search bar, type in the word dash, and it then shows you BioTab and dashboard maintenance. And if I click on that, it highlights over here in the left-hand menu where that menu item actually is. So if I double click that, that's going to open up a list of all of the BioTabs and dashboards that are already in my system. So if this is blank, you've got no BioTabs, no dashboards, that's okay. But you can see I've got a lot of BioTabs and a lot of dashboards in my system. In the bottom right corner, there's a button that says install from Andar. And if I click that, that takes me right back to where I just showed you. So it's the installer for our BioTabs and dashboards. Same exact functionality, it's just a different way to get there. So highlight one of these, click the install button, and you can install your BioTab right from here. Once you install it, it will drop it into this table, and it should also automatically add it to your list of BioTabs. If you don't see anything over on the left-hand side, if it's blank like this and all you see is main bio, just click the little plus underneath main bio, and then you can see all of the BioTabs that are available here. So for example, you might see profile individual here, or technically, I guess you would see it under the Andar software folder. These folders are kind of neat because we categorize, and you can adjust these categories if you'd like. So maybe you've got a category of BioTabs that your finance folks want to create. You can group them all together in a folder. That's a category. I'll show you that when we look at the setup here. So you can categorize this, but by default, we've got these in the Andar software category. And I've got one here for campaign, one for data entry, one for finance, and one for individual profile. So these are all grouped together by that category. I'm just going to go to the individual profile one for now as an example, and it now adds this over on the left-hand side. So it doesn't automatically change my view. That's okay. But if I click on that, we're back to where we were. Okay. In the dashboard webinar, somebody brought up a question, and if you're on this call, I'm going to thank you again because it was a great question. It's something that I've overlooked for many, many years just because I've kind of done it and forgotten about it. If you want this particular bio tab to open up every single time that you open up an individual account profile, you can do that. Right now, I don't have this set as a default. So if I were to close this and let's open up Cindy's account one more time, it goes right back to this gray screen. Well, really what I'd prefer is let's have it open to this bio tab every single time I open up an individual account. So to do that, all you have to do is right click on the bio tab that you want, and you get a couple of options here. You can set this particular bio tab called profile individual. You can set it as a default, or you can set it as a default for main. So what that means is if I were to set this for default, now when I open up Cindy's account, every single time it's going to open up to the main. Every time it opens on the main tab, this bio tab automatically loads. Notice I didn't have to click on the bio tab to get it to load up. The other thing that you can do is if I right click this again, you can say set the default for main. So that just means anytime that I click on the main tab, then it's going to load up my bio tab. What if I'm a finance person? So I prefer to go in here and look at this finance screen because I need to look at the AR inquiry screen more than anything else. I don't care about any of the nice, pretty bio tabs. I don't care about any of that stuff. I really need to see this finance tab because that's my specific role. Well, if I right click on the finance, I can set the finance tab as default, right? So now if I close this out and go back to Cindy's account, it's going to open that finance tab by default. It's not opening the main tab like it was. It's opening the finance tab. So that's kind of what I meant and what Luke alluded to with the intro. You can set these kinds of things for different views. So if the finance person really needs to see this screen, you can right click it and set the finance tab as default. You can then further set, maybe I want this transaction screen to show up as my default. So I'm not seeing the AR inquiry subtab as my default. I want to see my transactions as a default. So if I right click on that, I can say set this as the default for finance. So now when I close Cindy's window again, and let's open it up one more time. Now, not only does it open the finance tab, but it also opens the transactions subtab. So that kind of rule applies to BioTabs as well. So if I go back to my main bio tab again, I come back here into profile, and just for every single person you want them to see the kind of individual profile tab here, right click on it and you save it as default. And then I'm also going to save as default for main. And what that ensures is that the main tab is the first tab that opens, and then this bio tab, the profile individual, is what's going to open for the main tab by default. You might have 5 or 6 or 7 different bio tabs out there for different purposes. So for example, I'm just going to go and add some more of these ones that I've already installed. So there's a campaign bio tab, a data entry, and a finance bio tab. These are all downloadable. Those are all from that downloadable screen that I showed you earlier. So you may have 4 different bio tabs here, but the default one you want to open up as the profile one. If you're in finance and you want this guy to open up by default, you can right click it and you can say set as default and set as default from main. That ensures every single time you open up an individual account, you are seeing the finance BioTab, whereas maybe your campaigners are going to do the same thing for their campaign BioTab. So different lenses for different roles. If you want the generic one, I kind of recommend that. This profile individual one as the generic one for everybody. You can do this and set it as default for both. That ensures that when you open up an individual account, you're getting the same information that everybody else is getting, and it's kind of generic and not specific to one's role or another. Okay, so that's up to you guys what you want to install, what you want to install, what you want to make your defaults. But it kind of gets rid of landing on this gray, ugly screen that doesn't have a whole lot of information. Okay. One other thing I will point out, I'm going to grab a drink here in a second after this, but and we'll check in with questions. One other thing I didn't mention, not necessarily everybody doesn't necessarily need to install BioTabs or dashboards. A lot of times you have an admin, so an Andar admin will install that. If that's how your organization works, if you've got an Andar super user or an admin account, they might be the ones who go in and add a BioTab for you. There are some permissions that maybe you don't have the ability to add BioTabs. So everybody's a little bit different. We've got over 200 United Ways as customers. I don't remember the current count now. So everybody's a little bit different. So if you don't have access to that, maybe contact your Andar administrator. But not everybody needs to go out and add these BioTabs. It might be a centralized person or group of people that do this for you. Okay, I'm going to check in. Luke, do we have any questions that came up that were kind of global that we can answer before moving on to the next part here?
Yeah, we did have one question come in from Robert relating to the installable BioTabs. They have version 2025.02, but they do not have MIG. So for the MIG only installable ones, those would be a no-go for them, correct?
I believe so. I think here's how that works. I think if there is an app, so the reason we put the versions on there is to kind of notify you that there might be an app on there that is only available in 2025.02. This history chart, for example, it might be only available in 2025.02. Matter of fact, I can tell you this PECT Manager app is only available in 2025.02. So that's the column that I showed you earlier. Now, MIG is a little bit different. If there is an app that requires MIG, I don't think it'll keep the entire dashboard from loading. It might make that one app not load. So if there is an app that requires MIG, I think that one app will just fail, and then you could maybe remove that app. There are some features on there like filters that MIG is required for. So maybe some of the filters might not work properly. So varying degrees, but I don't think it's going to cause the entire BioTab to fail. It might just cause one app to fail or a portion of that app, like a filter, to fail. So good question. Anything else?
That is all we currently have.
Cool. All right, so moving on. One other thing I'm going to show you really quickly before getting into some customization of the apps themselves. There are a couple of settings on these BioTabs. So I've got a BioTab here, this again, profile individual. If I right click on it and go to update BioTab, this will show you some of the settings for the BioTab itself. So you can see it's got a name, you can rename it. You can't change the key name, that one's grayed out. But if you wanted this to say, see up here it says individual profile. If you want to change what this says under the name, that's the full name, so you can change that if you'd like. I mentioned categories, so if you want this to be in a specific category, you can come in here and choose a new category, or in the dashboard and BioTab maintenance window, you can create brand new categories. So maybe you don't want this to be under Andar software anymore. You want it to be under campaign. You can choose that category here. If you want to create new categories, you have to go to the dashboard and BioTab maintenance window. but that's where that comes from, the Andar software category. The other thing I wanted to point out here is this, I mentioned earlier, the profile name and picture. That's this checkbox right here. So if you're not getting the little profile picture in here and you're on 2502, you can come in and edit this dashboard, or this bio tab, and you can turn this checkbox on. That's what's going to show the name and the profile picture up here for you. The last thing you can do here that I'll point out is you can change the theme. So we've got a couple themes. We introduced a modern theme, so we can go back and make, I think I want to make a couple more additions to these themes and give a little bit more modern theme to some of this stuff. But if I change this to a modern theme and click update, you can see it just changes the way that this BioTab looks. So we've got themes for BioTabs and dashboards that you can play around with too. Technically, you could create your own. There's a couple in there. The only one I think that I wouldn't recommend, let's go back into my update. The only one I wouldn't recommend is, oh, good, we might have even gotten rid of or hidden it. There was a classic one in there. It was pretty old and dated, so we kind of removed that from the list. But you can change the theme, and that really just puts a different skin on it, right? So you've got this big blue banner with the Andar theme. So you can play around with some of those themes. I'm just going to go back and get mine to the Amplify. Okay, so that's a little bit on the categories and all of that, all of the settings on each one of these BioTabs. Within the BioTab, there's going to be a lot of overlap here with dashboards. So if you're familiar with how dashboards work, or if you were in the dashboard webinar, some of this might be a little familiar. But within each one of these apps, there are settings. Again, we've got 200 and some customers out there, and you guys know as well as I do, every United Way is just a little bit different. So you're looking for different things. We set these up as generically as we could to make it make as much sense as we could. But undoubtedly, there's going to be some things that you want to see that aren't on here, that you don't want to see, that you don't use. So there are customizations that you can throw in for each one of these BioTabs. To do that, there's a little switch here, and I say it looks like a little light switch with 3 light switches on it, so a light panel. If you hover over it, it says show icons, and that is what enables you to get into the settings of each one of these apps. So if I click that little button in the top right corner here, you'll now see that each one of these apps has a bunch of buttons to it. So for example, this contact information, I can click the little settings, the little cog wheel for this, and it now shows me all of the settings for this particular app. So in my case, I want it to show a street address, but maybe I want it to show a pecking order instead of just a plain old street address. I can then come in here and choose that I want it to show my individual address pecking order. And if you're not familiar with what a pecking order is, we'll hit this little pencil button. Essentially what it does is it runs through this list from low to high, and it's going to say, does this individual account have a general preferred address type? If it does, use it. If it doesn't, then we want to go to the mailing address. If it's got a mailing, it's going to show that. If it doesn't, go on to the next until it finally finds something. So that's a really good way. If you've got email addresses, a really good example of that. You might have a lot of workplace email addresses, and maybe you don't have as many personal. And if you only are displaying personal, you might be missing out that you could email that person at their workplace. So using pecking orders to display data is pretty useful. Phone types, if you've got different phone types, cell phones, home phones, work phones, we allow on this app to display up to 3 phone numbers. So you can choose the different types here, or you can choose different pecking orders. Salutations, if you want to choose a different salutation, salutations are kind of what I think of salutations are how you're addressing people in different contexts. So maybe for an event invite, you want to use a formal combined Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But if you're just sending an email out, hey Bill, right, instead of Mr. Smith. That's what a salutation is. So again, you can choose to display which salutation type or which pecking order that you have on here. Let's hit cancel for that. Oh, one more thing I'll show you on this. Up here highlighted in blue is the user title. So again, similar to what I just showed you earlier with changing the individual profile up here, you can change, if you don't like that this is called contact information, you can change that by changing the user title. So if I just come in here and I'll just make a quick modification. We'll type 1 and I'll check this checkbox to say only show that. And I'll hit my update button. Now you can see it added the 1. So if you don't like what these apps are named, you can rename those apps just by changing what this user title is up here. Okay, so we'll put that back. Each one of these apps has its own set of settings. So I use the contact information as an example. Charts are going to have a totally different set of settings here. So campaign accounts, if you want it to show this as default campaign, that's a setting in your system preferences. So if you've got multiple campaign accounts, you've got a capital campaign, you've got an out of area campaign, you've got a lot of folks call their local campaigns the United Way campaign. If you want to choose a specific campaign account that is different from your default campaign, you can choose that. If you want to see processing, fundraising, or checkoff accounts, you can choose those as well. So in this case, if you only want to see this chart based on your RUM dollars, you can choose the RUM dollars. RUM is resources under management, if you're not familiar with that term, and that's kind of your money, not designations to other agencies. So if you want this chart to just show money coming to you and your programs, as long as that's configured properly in Andar, this will then display that information properly. And then again, you've got, do we include memo transactions, which are kind of the fake money transactions? Somebody gave a corporate check for $20,000, but they want to be counted as a Tocqueville member. Oftentimes you'll put that in as a memo transaction. So do we want to include memo dollars in this chart or not? So each app has its own set of settings based on what the app is. One more thing on charts too, if you missed the webinar on BioTabs or on dashboards, charts have this kind of hidden functionality in them. There's a little pencil here that you could click, or you can right click on it and go to chart settings. Either one will get you to the same screen here. But this allows you to configure how that chart is displayed. So if I want this to be vertical or horizontal, do I want the values on the bars? So now the dollars are gone. If I hover over, I can still see the $460 there. Do I want the values on the bar or not? Sometimes that gets a little cluttered if you've got a lot of data there. Do you want the values on the X and Y axis? So we know that this is total pledge, so maybe I just want to remove the Y axis because we know that's what total pledge is. Saves a little screen real estate. Maybe it makes the chart a little bit wider. And then you can also change the themes of this, so color themes. So for example, we've got an Andar color theme 1 where it's kind of got this blue and lime green. Color theme 2, it's got this kind of turquoise color. We've got the United Way Canada theme in here. I think that's the red and blue. And then we've got the new branding for United Way Worldwide in here for the US folks. So the blues, yellows, all of the color codes that Worldwide put out there. You can also, you'll notice in here, I've got a couple named for me. I've created my own color themes. So you can create a color theme, you can edit color themes. There's all kinds of things that you can do in here for personalization on these charts if you choose to. We've also got the monochrome colors in here for ADA purposes too. So that's by right-clicking on the chart and going to chart settings or hitting the little pencil button. Either one will get you to the same spot. And that's across the board for all of the charts in Andar. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about if you don't want one of these apps. So let's go back to the example, I think from Robert, where he said maybe there's an app on here. He doesn't have MIG for his organization, and one of these apps just doesn't work for him, or it's not important to you. You don't want to see one of these apps. Let me just go down to the bottom. The bottom of this one, there's a one called profile timeline. So if this isn't important to you, what this shows you is any changes that have been made to this particular account and the time and date that a change was made. So if this particular app isn't important to you, you can just click the little remove app button in the right corner of the app itself, and it's going to ask you, do you want to remove this app? You say yes. That little app is now gone. There is, and I'm going to point this out, and I do this in all of my BioTab and dashboard webinars and trainings and everything else. There is a little minus button up here, and if you hover over that, that's in the top right corner next to kind of the profile name. It says remove all apps, and if you click that mistakenly, it's going to remove every app on your BioTab or dashboard. So be careful if you click that guy. That's going to remove all apps. If you just want to remove one, make sure you're doing it on the app itself. Okay, so that's removing. What if we want to go back and add an app? So, or maybe I made a mistake and I want that timeline to come back in. So up in the top right corner here, next to where we've got the BioTab name, there's a plus button. You click that and you get this screen, and it looks mostly blank. There are ways that we can filter this down. In the 2502 service pack, we added this app category. So if you're looking for a fundraising app to add to this BioTab, you can click on fundraising, and now it narrows this app list to just the fundraising apps that you can add. If I want a finance app, similarly, we've only got one app out there on for BioTabs for transaction flags, but this app category will help you narrow down maybe what you're looking for. If you left it at all, you can see all of the BioTab apps that we've got. But especially in dashboards, this gets a little overwhelming. So we wanted to put a little filter in there to try and help narrow things down for you. So I'm going to go and also trick on this if you didn't know. Anytime you've got a drop down in Andar, if you start typing, it'll match things that that you type in. So I'm going to pretend like I deleted that timeline app by mistake. So if I start typing time in, there's my timeline, right? It highlights that for me and kind of jumps me to that. So if you want to, if you start typing spouse, right? It highlights spouse for me and it'll add that spouse app. So it's a little easier to find. I'm going to go back and do the timeline again. Again, we've got a whole bunch of different settings down here that you can configure all of the different settings. Once you get the settings the way that you want, I'm just going to click add. So that adds this timeline back to the bottom. It doesn't put it back where it was. It just kind of adds it to the bottom. You can then grab one of these apps and drag it anywhere you want. So see how that little box lights up green once I hover over it? If I let go, it now drops that app into that slot. If I wanted to drag it back below, we'll drag it back below, and you can see there's a little, maybe you can see it, so it might be hard to see. There's a little green outline below the ranking and segmentation app. So that can be dropped below that app. If I want to move them left and right, as far as width, right, there's a lot of empty space on this now. I don't want that empty space, so there's a little left arrow. If I click that, it's going to drop it down one column. If I click it again, it'll drop it down another column. If I need to expand it back out, you can expand it back out with the right arrow. If I wanted to make this taller, there's a little up and down arrow, and this is saying right now it's got the little dot next to 10. The up and down arrow will show me how many rows this is displaying by default. If you want a really long list, you can set 25, and now you can see it's got a lot more rows visible. If you want to set this down to 5 and just make it a narrow, skinny app, you can do that, and then you can scroll within the app itself. So there's all kinds of left and right, up and down that you can do. The other cool one, and this comes into play, I tried to do this in some of these BioTabs and dashboards. You can set things that will take up multiple. So on the right-hand side, let's do this. Let's drop this guy in a different spot. We're just going to dump it in here. Okay, so I've got my timeline. Let's let it finish loading. Okay, so I've got my timeline in there, but I don't really want this empty spot. So I'm going to drag my volunteer opportunities up. I'm going to drag my interest rating up, and I'm going to drag my ranking and segmentation. So dragging, moving, adding, all of that kind of stuff. What if I want this timeline to be like 2 rows wide instead of just this one section? You can certainly do that. So that's where you click this little down. Let's first set this to 20 rows. We'll get it to show 20 rows. I don't want all this space over here for the volunteer opportunities. So I always have to play around. I always forget which one I need to click the little down arrow on. But if you click the little down arrow on one of these guys, I did it on the left-hand side, not my timeline one. Yeah, let's do it on the other one. Let's click on the timeline one. The goal here is you can have 2 apps on the left and then one that spans like 2 rows. I've got a couple BioTabs that show that by default. If I can't get this guy to do it, there we go. So I clicked what I did, and just a recap, maybe I'll remember it if I say it out loud. I clicked the down arrow on my timeline, the one that's supposed to be longer, and that dropped it longer than the volunteer opportunities. Now I can grab this interest ratings and drop it in there, and now you can see I've got 2 on the left, 1 on the right. So you can drag and drop and reshape these BioTabs and dashboards kind of however you want, with a little bit of trial and error and moving things around. Like I said, everybody likes things a little bit differently. So if the layout doesn't suit you, you just have to click the little light panel over here and turn the switches on, and then you can drag things wherever you want. Okay. Okay, I'm going to grab a drink. I know we're getting close on time. I'm going to grab a drink, check in on questions, and then the last thing I'll show you is creating a brand new BioTab. So Luke, any questions that came up?
Yeah, we had one question from Katie, which is, how can we add something that is not an app on that list? For example, I'd like to add event attend, but that is not an option listed.
So if you are in here, let's click our little add button. So if you are in here and don't see something on this app list here, there are a couple of tricks. So if I remember correctly, if you can find it, so let me back up here. So one of the things, Luke, what was the example that Katie gave?
Event attend.
Yeah. Okay, so if you can find that on a sub-tab or a tab in Andar, so for example, event attendance is on the general event attend sub-tab. This is again for BioTabs. So if you can find it on a BioTab, on a sub-tab and tab combination, so again, general event, there might be what you're looking for. If you can find it, then chances are you can add it. The way that you can do that is add what's called, we're going to go in and click add, we're going to choose profile tab. Whoops, sorry. So if I choose profile tabs as my app, this list is all of the tabs that go across the top, right? So there's audit log, campaign communications, audit log, campaign communications. So these are all of the tabs across the top. We found that event attend under the general tab up here and event attend sub-tab. So I can then choose the event attend sub-tab and click add. And now I've got that exact same sub-tab showing up on my bio tab. So if you could find the thing that you want to add in Andar on a tab and sub-tab combo, then you can always add a profile tab app and then just choose where you found that information. So that's one way. The other way is if there is absolutely no spot that it exists in Andar, we can use Executive Plus components for that. Executive Plus components are SQL coded, so you have to be able to write SQL, or you can contact us. We can do it as a professional service for you guys. We can write custom code that will do things for you that aren't already visible. So if you wanted to see a list of all of the events and volunteer opportunities in the same table, that's not something that exists in Andar. We could write a SQL query that would display that, and then you can display that Executive Plus query. So we can get really granular if we need to. But again, if you can find it in Andar, use the Profile Tabs app. Really good question. That's a hidden one that I always forget about. So that's a good tips and trick. Anything else that came up?
That's it for now.
Cool. All right, so the last portion of this, and it's really, there's not a whole lot to show because we've kind of already seen a lot of it already. So it's just putting a couple of pieces together. What if you want to create your own BioTab or dashboard? In this case, we'll use BioTabs. You can click the little plus button over here. And again, not everybody will have access to this. There are some security settings that some sites have set up, but there is a menu that says create new BioTab when you click on the plus. And if you click create a new BioTab, you get, first off, is this going to be a global or one for your particular user? Remember, I said I was logged in as the Andar user. If you're logged in as yourself, mine might say Nate S here. So do you want to create it for everybody globally, or do you just want to create a BioTab just for you, Nate S, or Andar in this case? I'm always a big fan. When I was doing this, when I was at My United Ways, I would always create it for myself, play around with some settings and get it the way I wanted it, and then I would copy it as a global one. That way it's kind of mine until I am ready for it to be released into the wild. It's up to you, however you want to do that. Some folks, there are only a couple people that build BioTabs and dashboards, and it's not a big deal if things change every now and then. But ultimately, you can choose to set it up as a global for everybody, or just one for you. Give it a name. So you have to give it a short name, a full name, and a key name. So if I just start typing test, you can see it populates the key name. Remember, the key name is the one that can't be changed later. So if you've got typos in there like I just did, fix that before you create it. The full name is going to be what shows up here under their the actual name. So individual profile, we'll just call this testing. Really like that capital E. Sorry, can't let that go. You can give it a category. So I'll just put it under here, task. The effective dates and expiry dates, those can be used for other things like iAccess, and there might be uses for that. But in general, we don't end up using the effective and expiry dates very often. You can make it for just specific accounts in a warehouse. You can use this as the default. There is a printing only, so there's a print button. You can kind of see it in the background over here. If I hover over it, it should show up red. You can use that for printing, and what that's used for is if you want to create like a CEO call book or something like that, and you don't actually want to display this, you just want to use this BioTab for printing purposes. Checking that for print only will just make it so that you can't choose it over on the left-hand side here, but you could use it for printing purposes. Publishing on the web is for iAccess. So if you've got iAccess and you want to publish this out on the website, you can check that and then choose a role to publish that to. There's our show profile name again, and then the theme. So we'll put this in a modern theme. If I click add, now we've got this global BioTab over here called test. It's completely blank, doesn't have anything other than that profile picture, the name, and then the name of the BioTab itself. And we're left with that blank canvas. From there, you can click the little add button and start adding all of these different apps to your heart's content. So if I add, oh yeah, I have to add at least one. Let's just add something here. Yeah, let's add our contact info back. So you can go and build your own BioTab if that's what you choose to do. So however you want to do it, if you want to start with one of these and modify, that's perfectly fine. You can add and remove apps. We showed you how to do that. You can move them left and right, up and down, make them taller or shorter. You can add your own apps to this. rearrange things. So you can start with that paint by numbers that we've given you in the installables, or if you want to dive in and create your own because it's too much work to modify one of the ones that already exists, you can jump in and create your own BioTab and start adding apps however you'd like. Cool. So I think we're at time. I will happily stick around and answer any more questions if they've come up. So Luke, I'll turn it over to you. If there are any other questions, feel free to throw them out there. Otherwise, I will turn it back to you.
We did have one final question of, can you clone a BioTab?
Yeah, great question. So let's go back. The way that you can clone or copy a BioTab is under this BioTab and dashboard maintenance menu item. So that's where we saw that you can install from. So if I go back to the BioTab and dashboard maintenance menu item, if I were to highlight, do I have a BioTab? Yeah, there's an organization BioTab. So if I wanted to copy this organization BioTab, highlight it, and there's a copy button, and it pops this guy up. It gives you a starter name. It throws, a number after there just to make it different. All of the key names have to be different, but you can rename it. So anything that's in this list out here, you can highlight and click copy. And that's a really good best practice. When I said I was working on like an individual BioTab before I released it to the rest of the folks at my United Ways, that's how I would do it. I would come in here, find one of my BioTabs or dashboards that I was working on. It would not say global. So for example, up here, this one says Robin. Robin could then come in and copy hers, change it to global instead of Robin, and then it would be available for everybody. So yeah, you can absolutely copy. Highlight from this BioTab and dashboard maintenance screen, highlight it, click the copy button, change any of these settings or namings, conventions or anything like that, and you can copy it that way. Good question.